It's been a few days. I've been just in the midst of being present over Christmas, and obviously my family or my kids are home. So I haven't had much time to myself to think much, let alone get on here and make any sort of sense while making a video. I have been doing so much listening, and there's always kind of a pattern to the theme of what is being talked about. And I think I've talked to her a little bit about it with boundaries. This time though, instead of talking about how we instill boundaries for our kids and the discipline aspect, I want to back up further and talk about the boundaries that we put in place as we go about our days with other adults. I've noticed a trend, and it's not the best, because what I'm noticing is a trend. My dog's leash is stuck again. I think the last time I made a video, her leash got stuck too. I'm noticing a trend where people are just cutting ties. And I know that there's probably a lot that goes into it. And so I'm not really going to touch on that as much as I'm going to say, let's back up further and look at the warning signs. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but the signs that let you know you're headed towards the direction of breaking off a relationship. And obviously non-committed relationships, there's not as much baggage, but I think if we're gonna look at biblical living, obviously boundaries are important. You don't want people to walk all over you, but also something that I struggle with, actually, I'll just share my own testimonies. Something I struggle with when I'm putting boundaries in place is I feel unloving. I feel like boundaries are absolutely necessary, but for me, being a person who loves people, even the ones that aren't the most friendly, I still see someone who God created with love. And I know with free will, we can make choices that hurt other people. And I know many people, I'm getting distracted by the snow plows. This is so exciting. We got through Christmas here with no snow, and I've heard little rumors that we might be getting snow. So being on the road and seeing snow plows is an encouraging thing. Anyways, I feel unloving when I'm putting boundaries on people, and I haven't figured out yet how to put boundaries on different scenarios. The most basic baseline we have is thinking before speaking. Because I do believe that you can be more loving if you're thinking through your actions instead of doing something emotionally. So for instance, if something's hurting me, I could think of the Bible verse that could say, be angry but do not sin. And I can also think of the Bible verse in James that says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And I'm not going to say that I'm completely in control of all of that, but I will say not much brings anger into me. That's not one of my go-to emotions. So you figure, if you're slow to anger, that's one of those emotions that can cause you to act harshly around others. And when you're putting a boundary in place and you're doing it in anger, likely it's not going to come off as very loving. And you could, though, back up and, work through your anger maybe first. Like I said, I don't usually turn to anger. I turn to discouragement and sadness, but I don't go to anger, so to speak. So if I were a person, though, that would, or you could, interject the word anxiety. You can turn to anxiousness instead of anger. And so in a situation where I'm turning to anxiousness, I have coping skills in place to help me through that anxiety, and then I can have a clear mind to then work through whatever conflict is causing the need for boundaries. So what would you do then to cope with your anger? Are you giving it thought, or are you just kind of blasting off and whoever's in your path gets the wrath? And if you're doing that, it's fine, because I'm not asking you to change everything about yourself. I'm just asking or encouraging some mindfulness in how we react to life, and maybe trying to get a little ahead of it instead of getting caught up in it. So I'm trying to think of an example, and I don't really have one, but say a need for boundaries arises. I think the most basic thing you can do is stop and listen to what the person in front of you is actually saying, and just listen. And when you're done listening, I do sometimes, I'll say, is there anything else? And I will just say right here and right now, I am not the best at listening. I've gotten better over the years. Again, that's something that needs to be trained. Some people don't naturally have that in them. I'm an interrupter, and I hate it because I know that people think that is rude. But ultimately, I've tried to get into the habit of just actually listening. And then from that point, you could ask questions. You could ask questions about what this person's saying so you can better understand. I don't know if I know there is a quote, and I can't remember if I came up with it or not. But it's along the lines of listening to understand and speaking to be understood. So you figure it's very easy from a place of calm to have a clear head, and then you're able to put boundaries in safely. And then what you're going to do, because if you're not speaking from anger, a lot of times once you've already kind of calmed down from the situation, you can think more clearly. And what I would really encourage you to do is not speak in anger, because then what happens is you might make empty threats. And if you're making empty threats, and then you cool down, and suddenly you're in a position where you're like, well, why did I say that? In the realm of boundaries, if you say something, you should do it. And so with kids, I'll go to the kids example. That's always my easy go-to. If I say something to my kids, I better do it, because if I don't, that shakes my integrity in their eyes. And it goes that way with adults too, but adults sometimes, I wouldn't like to believe this to be true, but it is. Adults will play on that. They'll play on your inability to follow through with what you say. It can turn you into a pushover, to be honest, unfortunately. So, say what you mean what you say. That's something that I use frequently. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. So if that's going to be the case, you want to take a minute to think about what you actually are trying to say, right? So if you're doing something from anger, for instance, you're not going to be thinking clearly. And then you're in a position where you have to figure out, what did I even say? And am I sticking with that? And if you aren't, then, it just shakes the foundation a little bit. And so encouraging a good, sturdy foundation, first and foremost, your roots are found in who you are. okay. Wherever you are today, you are okay. And from that point, you can just start taking little steps in the direction of, how can I fix this up a little bit? How can I kind of change my ways a little bit, but not change who I am at the core? Because how people treat you is how you're allowing people to treat you. And it's never too late to change. And it doesn't have to come from, like I said, it doesn't have to come from a place of anger. It can come from a place of, I respect myself enough to figure out who I am at my root, figure out, and just so you know, I'm not encouraging you to walk away from all your relationships that aren't serving you, because I think that can be very, very, very damaging in the big picture. I was listening to Therapy and Theology, I think it was. Lisa TerKeurst has quite a few sessions where she's, having discussion with her therapist and usually one other person. And I'm actually just about to start her book, Good Boundaries and Goodbyes, I think it's called. So I might have other things to say based on what I read in there. But ultimately, relationships take a lot of work. And if you're one of those people who doesn't know how to put good, safe boundaries, healthy boundaries on the people around you, or as Lisa has actually said, it's not putting boundaries on other people, you're putting boundaries around yourself, essentially. So you're not expecting people to change, but ultimately, when you're changing how you expect to be treated, and you're putting good, solid boundaries in place lovingly, you will notice that people treat you different and better. And I think there's a level of respect that grows with that, and that's a good thing. And ultimately, if each one of us kind of took the time to figure this out, we might have better relationships overall, and we might feel better overall, and ultimately things will be better for everybody. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, I'm not a person who grows angry very easily, but I definitely see in my life there's need for boundaries in different areas, and it's a good thing to kind of research it and learn about it and figure it out and do it, with a peaceful heart. So that's where I'm at. I'm actually just pulling up to the groomer right now to take my poodle in for his haircut. Fuzzy. Look at him. He's so cute. Leo. He's funny in the car. He just kind of does his own thing. He doesn't care. So I'm going to take him into the groomer, and then I'm going to do some grocery shopping and do some other running around today, and then I'm going to hopefully make cookies, which seems like a lot, so we're going to have some probably going to need some flexibility today. I hope you're having a great day. If your kids and family are home this couple weeks, I hope that it's going well and that you are using your boundaries. And if you haven't figured it out, now is a good time to start. Have a great day.